Hello, everyone, and welcome to your last best hope for conversation, your Babylon 5 podcast. In the CNC, we are all discussing Jesse's angst about getting Bruce Springsteen tickets, but we are also, I have Lou.
Hello, everyone.
And Karen.
Hello.
And today we are still on season 1. This was back in the day when seasons lasted a long time. 22 episodes. We are talking TKO. This was I forgot to write my notes. Yes, it was a first season episode. Premiered way back in May 25, 1994, episode 14. I am Yes, that is another thing, guys. The IMDb and HBO, if it has how many of us are watching it, and the DVDs or Blu-rays all have different orders. So hang with us as you go, okay, which one are they talking about? So anyway, Karen, what were your thoughts on this one?
Do you really want to know what my thoughts were on this one? Not my favorite episode. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
There were parts of it that were good, but they were few and far between in this one. And I don't know. I was just not a fan of the whole Mortal Kombat thing.
Yeah.
Not for me. Ivanova's storyline was good, but I think it also fell a tiny bit flat.
Yeah. Lou, how about you?
I didn't mind it, to be honest. I mean, definitely it's not in the top tier of episodes, but it was okay. I think the thing that hurts it the most, well, I know the thing that hurts it the most is the blocking and the stunts for the fight scenes were not of a professional quality, let's say. Mm-hmm. So that really hurts it, but I didn't mind the storyline. But whether it's a one-off, I didn't really see the purpose of it unless somehow this mutai fighting arena concept is going to come back into the show later on in the series. But and I really enjoyed the Ivanov. See, now that guy's got me all messed up.
Ivanova.
Yeah, but he doesn't pronounce the A at the end. He just says Ivanova. Ivanova.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So it threw me off, but I like that storyline quite a bit, and it was a nice reveal of deepening of the Susan character, which we already know is very buttoned down.
Yeah, I remember this might have been one of the episodes that, for some reason, because when I first watched this, TNT was re-showing them. They had just bought the rights, and they were going to do the 5th season. So they were showing a new episode Monday through Friday every day. And I had my VCR set to record it. And I think for some reason it didn't work that day. So this one I didn't watch till later. I think in one of those, if you were telling a fan, like, okay, well, on this one, you can fast forward through anything that doesn't have Susan or the rabbi or the commander, right? And you could just skip the rest of them. I mean, it was nice to see Garibaldi have a friend. Mm-hmm. The idea,
sure,
it kind of Rocky-ish that this person earns the respect. So it is a one and done episode, which Babylon 5 wanted to do in the first season as they're finding their things. But yeah, I this is definitely one of those where if it did not have Susan's arc with her father, you could skip it because it does nothing down the road. Not a spoiler, Lou, that, we don't, this does not later come back to be important, that Bruce Boxleitner, which we all know ends up joining the cast, later has to fight in this rig.
Yeah, let's hope not. Yeah, the blocking was bad, like Lou said, and I don't know, it was just, fight to the death, and then there's no death at all. I mean, why hype it up is that if you're just going to call the fight over whenever you want?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I kept on waiting for that battle music from the Star Trek episode Amok Time.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum,
Yeah.
bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
Right.
But they didn't have any extra music for those scenes, which I think would have helped a lot. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was and it was stereotyping of racial people as well, which I didn't think especially now. Maybe back then it wasn't probably as cringy, but I cringed all the time when there's that controversy when Phantom Menace came out and they had all these stereotypes of alien races.
Yeah.
The same kind of issue, and I think that was going on here as well.
Yeah.
I was borderline offended at the Asian stereotypes in this episode. It was just, I don't know, not my favorite. The one thing I do like is who was in the episode, though. The people the guest stars that were in the episode.
Oh, let's talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, Theodore Bickle was in a pretty good episode of The Next Generation where Picard goes back to the vineyard and all that. He was in that episode.
Okay.
Can't remember.
I've seen him on other things. He's a very
yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been in a million things. Greg McKinney died not too long after this, so he hasn't been in a lot of things.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Soon TKO played the Mutado, and he's been in a zillion things. You would recognize him if you saw him without the makeup on. And Don Stroud. Now, he's very interesting. He's been in a lot of things. He's still alive. He's a professional surfer. He's done both incarnations of Hawaii Five-0. And I found these facts on his IMDb. This is awesome. He survived a plane crash during the making of Von Richthofen and Brown and saved the pilot's life by treading water for 45 minutes. And then in the early 1990s, Stroud attempted to come to the aid of a man being mugged on the street in Greenwich Village, New York. He wound up getting stabbed 10 times, including his right eye, which he can no longer see out of. I mean, this dude is a badass. And he played Caliban in this episode, like the old fighter dude.
Yeah, and if you go to his IMDb page and look at he's one of those, that guy.
Yeah.
Remember there was that podcast for a while, or that he is. And yeah, I mean, if you look, 164 credits, and there was a point where anytime any 70s, 80s police drama, I mean, he was in several Dragnet episodes, MacGyver, the new Mike Hammer. So yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. Oh,
and Soon Teko also, who played the Mutado, he was the voice of Mulan's father in Mulan.
Oh, nice.
But he was also in like 3 MASH episodes as 3 different people, which they did back then, which just lame. But I mean, you'd recognize him if you saw him for sure, without the makeup on. But anyway, it was amazing. I love these guest stars. This was so far the most diverse guest star cast that they've had. All of them being famous for something. So
yeah. And the Larry DiTilio is one of the writers, and he had done a lot of animation, and he ends up doing 7 episodes of Babylon 5.
So, yeah, he co-created She-Ra with him.
Ah, nice. So so really nice.
Right, JMS.
All right, so I think it's interesting, the whole, hey, they have this routine. Babylon 5, one of the things that you have to hand wave is the idea that Babylon 5 has become like the Superdome or Soho Stadium in Los Angeles or Jerry World here, AT&T Stadium, that they routinely host events. And I guess because everyone goes to Casablanca, everyone comes to Babylon 5. So they're having this big fight season, but because of because of cost, it's this really small arena. I mean, like that, not that many people could see it. It would be like hosting the World Cup and putting it at the little elementary soccer field, right?
Right.
So we've all 3 said that we were not impressed with that storyline, but as I said, it was nice to see Garibaldi's a friend. He's trying to recapture he feels like he was wrongly accused, trying to rebuild his glory. Any kind of else that we want to talk about before we move to Susan's story?
I guess the main thing, disappointment for me in this episode was the fact that Garibaldi was tied up in the storyline and was not present at the ceremony for Suzanne's father.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I would have thought, and once again, maybe this is a budget thing, but you would have thought everyone would have been at this.
Mm-hmm. Instead of these
when
nameless Russian people.
Yeah.
Like, where did they come from?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I know very little about these customs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you normally just have friends and family, but it does seem like Garibaldi should have been there. Some of the like Corwin. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the Dr. Corwin, who's one of the guys and the technician we see a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you would have had a lot of more people. Yeah. So
that's about it.
I
was impressed.
Okay.
They must have really, like, the blocking wasn't good, but I was impressed that because all these characters are wearing makeup, like all these prosthetics. I'm curious if there was any mishaps during the filming of it, where somebody's makeup got ripped off or something like that, or smudged or whatever. So
do you think they really connected though?
No. But the blocking made it look like they did. So from that aspect, it was good, but it was just their movement around the ring and all that. And like, because Jesse said the ring was so small, it reminded me of the police squad episode where they're on each side of a dumpster getting up and shooting at each other. Like,
right. Blam.
Yeah.
Blam. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's it.
Okay. Susan, Karen, any thoughts on the fights, or do we move on?
I'm flattered.
Yes.
No thoughts about the fight. I thought it was cool that they had a lot of races there. Like they had some what was it, Centauri there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay in that respect, but yeah, it was a little claustrophobic, and I was just not. And again, like you said, which I forgot to bring up, it was not, let me see. It was not believable to me that this mutai, or whatever it's called, was on Babylon 5. It was newsworthy on Earth.
Yeah.
Like they had news reports on it. And then it seemed like this little niche thing. I mean, why would there be a news report on it if it was this tiny little, I don't know.
It does.
And then a fight to the death. It just, it didn't seem that death worthy.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, by the way, we went Tuesday night on a business dinner. We had people who report to my boss management team in from Havasu, Arizona. So we were all in Dallas. So we went to a sports bar to have dinner, and the hostess had a great braid. And I noticed just because of you, Karen.
Awesome.
And so I actually said, "You have a wonderful braid." When I was getting my ticket validated, my parking ticket validated, she goes, "Well, thank you." And I wanted to go, and I said, "No, she doesn't care that I have a friend who mentions
Why
this
not?
in
Why not?
Yeah. But yes, I
You
never would have noticed that.
I need to take a picture of your braid because my friend would really enjoy seeing it.
Yes, very nice.
Yep.
All right, so we have established that Susan is Jewish. She is Russian. In the Lurker's Guide, JMS says she thinks herself as Russian first and then Jewish. I know I have a friend who makes the joke. He is Jewish. And
I like that. I think she's probably that as well.
Yeah, he said I stole that for a comedian. I don't remember which name, but I love that. And I thought this was a nice payback because there was that wonderful episode where she was breaking the rules to try to talk to her father. We got a nice beat with Garibaldi going, well, he's figured out what it is, but he doesn't want to embarrass her because he knows the reason why. And she calls her father Papa at the very end. And so I think her, as she calls him, her uncle, this is a grandfather to her. The rabbi shows up and wants to help her close the circle to say Shiva. And I thought that stuff was really lovely. I loved his wonderment of Babylon 5, that the idea of the whole discussion, is this kosher or not? You
Yeah,
know,
with the
so
trio, yeah.
yeah, this was just a really lovely little personal story that truly does nothing for the arc, but it helps make the character, gives her more depth. So Lou, I'll start with you.
Yeah, this is the advantage of series over movies, is that you can take a sidebar and do an episode like this where you flesh out a character more, so that it carries forward into all the other episodes. Where in a movie you can only maybe at best give some shorthand about, there might be this inference that this character has undergone some sort of background trauma or whatever. So I appreciate this episode from that perspective, but as we've discussed, we just wish it was wrapped into something that was more pertinent to the overall arc of the series. So the Suzanne character is pretty much what I expected her to be. She's very tightly wound. I think it's a good textbook case of people trying to hold all this pain within inside of them, and it will only fester and grow if you don't let it out or have a proper release of emotion. So I liked it from all those aspects. Again, I'm just a little bummed out that there wasn't more of the regular cast in this story besides Sinclair. So she's a very interesting character, and I hope that we'll get to see her, maybe now that she's had this release, become more open about herself, or more comfortable in her own skin, I guess you could say.
Karen?
This was the only thing that saved this episode for me, is her storyline. I really liked her interactions with her rabbi, calling him uncle and all that, but being super formal at the beginning, calling him a rabbi, and then he's like, why are you calling me that?
Yeah.
I thought that was cool, showing their bond, that like he's her only remaining, and I put air quotes around it, family.
Yes.
That she lost her mother, her brother, and now her father, which was her entire blood family. And I'm thinking that the reason she's so tightly wound is that she's just shutting all that off. She's work and that's it, because if she thinks of anything else in her life, she might fall apart. So that really does give a lot of depth to her character, and her resisting sitting Shiva because of how she felt about her father, I thought was really in character for her. But the fact that the rabbi goes behind her back to Sinclair, and that Sinclair didn't know that her father died, that was a little heart-wrenching for me, knowing that she didn't even let anybody know that her father died.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was glad that she got to find closure with that.
Yeah. There's this great line. The rabbi says, then the tragedy is greater than I thought. Without forgiveness, you cannot mourn. And without mourning, you can never let go of the pain. You cannot run away from your heart, Susan, not even in space.
Yeah.
So I just love that. Yeah. And I thought this was a really nice, maybe they didn't include anyone else because they really wanted Susan and Jeff to have a moment.
Right.
Which they did, which I loved him going, not chastising or just, why? Think of you as, you're one of the finest officers I've ever seen. I like to think of you as a friend. Why did you not include me in this? And then I knew Susan would be pissed that the rabbi went behind her back.
Yep.
Yep.
But I think he truly was, I don't think he's trying to do this because of anything except Susan's well-being.
Right.
I truly, this isn't because he's trying to follow some religious doctrine or trying to do any rules. He truly is worried about her. And I love that little scene where she's angry and then later she gives in.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really a beautiful, and the ceremony itself was really well done to tell these different stories. And often I find that some of the best closure is when after the funeral, and even wherever at the church or the funeral home, and then you go to the gravesite and then you go back to someone's home to break bread, is when you often do get some of the best stories and some of the best closure of emotionally moving on.
Right.
Yeah. I really like the parting shot too, when Sinclair, when she said she was ready to go back on duty, and Sinclair said, good, because I'm tired of doing double shifts. And she says, well, maybe you'll think of that the next time. I don't know the name of the
Catherine, but I don't know her.
Yeah.
Catherine comes
visit,
back.
yeah.
I thought that was a nice little that was a nice little character beat between the two of them as well.
Yeah.
So I really like
yeah,
that.
I do. I do, because he knew she didn't want to. He knew she didn't need an emotional point at that point. She needed something.
Right.
And so that was good. Yeah, I really like that a lot. By the way, did you guys notice that Susan was reading Harlan Ellison's?
But that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a real book, though.
No, it's not.
Yeah, he talked about it was his planned autobiography. And and it was not supposed to. I don't know if it has been published. According to IMDb, July 2019, it had come out. So I don't know if that's correct or not. But they made that prop, and Ellison borrowed it and carried it around, trying to make people think, "What? You had a book come out and I missed it?"
yeah, because if that has come out, I would like to read it too, because I'm a big Ellison fan. I've read all his short stories pretty well, and he's only published one novel, Spider's Kiss, which was a rock and roll story. So I was looking at that book and I says, that's not a real book. That's not a real Ellison story. I don't
and one
remember seeing that.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at Amazon now while we're talking. Yeah, I know that when you discuss, like, I know he did a version. He published The City on the Edge of Forever, the original format, which I thought was his original script, and talks about all the story, because there is a lot of
changes.
Yeah, and a lot of, he actually takes a little bit of shot against Gene Roddenberry in a very Harlan Ellison way. That he is, because there was a lot of discussion about, he wrote this book, would have been $5 million to make the episode, and
it would have.
So I really enjoyed reading the original script.
Me too. Yeah.
And hearing his version of it, because there's always two different sides, and somewhere in the middle probably is the reality.
I don't know where you read it from, but I read it there was a collection of like 6 science fiction scripts, TV plays maybe, or something. And his original version of Sitting on the Edge of Forever is in there. And it's got like Enterprise crewmen selling drugs, and the Guardian of Forever was like this choir of super beings and all this. So the cost of doing that would have been prohibitive. So both versions of the story are fantastic, though.
Yeah, and he actually published a book where he told the story. It's probably, you can find it, where he gives the story beforehand. He shares emails back and forth, and then puts the script. So Wonderful Edge. When he is, and by the way, that book never came out. I'm looking at this.
Didn't think so.
I'm going to,
Just too bad. But
when JMS asked what Harlan did, and he said he just, whatever he wanted to do on this, like, just because he was such a mentor to JMS, that he just would be able to go in and out and just give little thoughts here and there, almost like seasoning. So so definitely involved with when he wanted to be on the production and what's going on. All right, any other thoughts that we want to discuss? I do think this is one of those one and done episodes. I think during a rewatch, it would be easy to skip, even with the wonderful Susan scenes, because it really doesn't, it gets a little depth to the character. But I would fast forward through the fighting scenes. But anything else?
Technically, there was no technical knockout, right?
That's right. There was not a technical knockout. No.
And it's called TKO.
And to be fair, there was also the battle to the death. There was no one dying.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. Very cool. All right. Let's go ratings. Susan. I mean, God, Karen. Why do I keep going, Karen?
I don't know. I got a braid? I don't know.
Braid, yes.
She didn't have a braid in this one, though.
No, she did not. Yes.
She just had like a ponytail that was stuck back to her head. I notice her hair in every episode. She has such great hair.
I love this so much.
That I love her hair?
Yes, that you do. Yeah. That you notice, yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I give it 5 samovars
Okay. Lou?
I'll give it 6.5 small fighting rings.
All right. I'm going to go, I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to do 6 Is This Kosher meals. Mostly just because of the interaction between Susan, her rabbi, and the commander. I thought it was really nicely done. Very good. All right. We got some feedback. Do you have that, Karen?
Yeah, I have the one from Nathan.
Okay.
He writes, hey, there are several episodes from season 1 that I don't like, and TKO is one of them. Only Ivanova's storyline is worth watching, and Garibaldi's one is an illustration of the season 1 rule I came up with. Alien stories rule, human stories are dull, and Garibaldi's are the worst ones. There's even no redeeming, fun interactions with ambassadors to help here, like in Survivors or Believers. It's just an unimaginative retrace of the fighting movies from the decade preceding Babylon 5. I guess the most fun for me will be listening to you guys because, one, listening to you is more fun than watching TKO. And 2, you might surprise me and find this episode more interesting than I did, like it happened with Believers. If I was a host, all I could ask in this situation would be, how bored were you? Because I was bored out of my mind. Let's move along. Oh, thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan. What a joy to hear from you. And please give us more feedback.
I just want to let everyone know that I did not read his feedback until after I saw the episode. So we were just on the same wavelength. Yeah. That's all.
I'll read Holly Max and then you can summarize our buddy Alec, because Alex always gives us great feedback, but long feedback, and keep it coming. I'm not complaining on the link at all.
No. We love it.
Yes. Holly Mack says, hey, all. Of course, Garibaldi would know Walker Smith. Love the nod to Howard Ellison with Ivanova reading one of his novels or autobiography. I can remember back in the day when the Sci-Fi Channel first started out, they would have a weekly news sci-fi show, and every now and again, Mr. Ellison would appear and give a commentary like what Andy Rooney would do on 60 Minutes. I did not know that, and I wish I'm going to have to see if those are available on YouTube. That would be fun to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. The meeting with Ivanova's uncle Rabbi had with Sinclair gives more background information on her family. Sinclair did his best with his heart-to-heart with Ivanova to mourn the loss of her father. The mutai way of fighting is interesting in the way that it starts out. The reaction for Smith not to participate in the mutai is very valid. Very close call with someone trying to take out Smith during the mutai fight. The Shiva scenes and Ivanova's reading of the prayer morning were beautifully done. The fight ending in a draw was good, and the respect both Smith and her showed each other was perfect. A very good episode. I'll wrap it up here. Farley from Wisconsin. And by the way, Holly sent me a note. She is a newbie. She has never seen Babylon 5 before.
Awesome.
So she is going through this journey with us, which I love. So thank you, Holly. I really, really appreciate it. Good.
And I hope you don't hate me, Holly,
no,
for not liking this one.
No. All right. And then you want to give us some highlights from Alexander?
Sure. Let me read some of his snippets.
Yeah.
This is, again, it's from Alexander in Germany, who is awesome. We enjoy reading his emails. I read every word.
I do too.
But I'm just going to read to you guys snippets from it. I've seen people argue that a boxing plot doesn't fit into Babylon 5 at all, and that the weird racial undertones of a lot of the dialogue are entirely misplaced given the usual message of the show. Now I have a very favorable reading of this plot, and in my mind, it does contribute a lot to the overall setting and story of Babylon 5. But I also have to acknowledge that little of that contribution was likely intentional during the episode's production. Boxing is pretty far removed from anything that usually goes on in Babylon 5. The story we follow, the characters we interact with, the problems the shows deal with, all of these things have little to do with boxing championship. And hold on, let me move on to something else. He just talks about soccer or football, as he were.
Yes.
To me, this highlights an aspect of society that is hugely important. The bigotry and racism felt throughout humanity in this show is not simply propaganda fed to the people from some evil government. It's not just some sort of psych-horror conspiracy behind it all. There's also that nasty everyday anti-alien sentiment that festers in areas of the society that don't consider themselves hugely political at all, and yet have such huge sway over society. So as the show establishes racist ideologies, part of EarthGov and extremist groups, I think it also tells us we will need more than some extreme action by our heroes to fix this. They will have to somehow support and sway the sentiment of the majority to really do anything meaningful about this. And that struck me as super timely, not just in what we're watching, but also in the world today. Just very insightful. With all that said, I'm really looking forward to the next discussion. There are some of my favorite episodes coming up, so that's going to make for some great writing material. All the best, Alexander.
Thank you, Alexander. That's wonderful. Did we get any feedback on our YouTube channel, Lou?
Yes. Oh, yes, we sure did.
Yay.
We had 14 comments, which is pretty good for the podcast on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's great.
The regulars are back. Mike Finney, Jorma. I don't recognize that name, but he's there. Alan Martecki is back. Also have here Simon Gills is back, or Giles. Sorry, Simon, or anybody if I'm mispronouncing your name. And then OENR, owner, I guess. I don't know. Pauline Gray and Mike Finney, and he has a good one. He says, answers to some of your questions so far, jumbled to prevent spoilers. And so I don't even know what, I guess we'd have to go through the podcast to find out what the questions were. But he goes, yes, no, not exactly in the way you were thinking of, but very close, way out beyond the rim, out the airlock, ice cold, freezing, cool, warm, hot, boiling, transfer point.
Nice.
And then somebody responds, and then Karen says, come on, less spoilers.
That's funny.
In general, they're remarking on our frustration, especially me, of things being set up without the answers in the same episode. And they're talking about the differences between serialized short storytelling today as opposed to when Babylon 5 came out. And I'm personally myself, I'm very familiar with serialized storytelling. So I understand that maybe I'm overstating it in each episode. It's just because I'm in the moment and I want to know what I understand, that some of these things are going to take time to pay off, but I will try to tone down my rhetoric on that. But yeah, I do understand where they're coming from there. Martecki has a lot of, he's got he and who's the other, Alex? Is it Alex?
Yeah.
That has a long.
Yeah, Alex, yeah.
Him and Alex should get together, because he's got like quite a few comments here. He's talking about, again, the long-term focus versus and he understands the Babylon 5 fans tend to emphasize the long-term plan about how everything makes sense by the end. And he can understand why newbies would get a little bit frustrated with that kind of answer. It's like in drama shows, romance shows, when people have issues and they always say, it's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that answer.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's like saying, oh, that's so nice.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really provide you with any satisfaction.
Fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Fine.
Everything's
is my favorite.
fine.
Fine.
So
I love his comments on here, by the way. It's really cool. Without giving spoilers, he actually expands on some of the stuff in the episode. So, and I'm talking about Martecki.
Yeah.
So he talks about Morden, the Eye, the weird ship blowing up the Raiders, and he says this one is difficult once you lose sight of the ship designs of the show. So he says, but on the plus side, it gives us a good idea of the power level of these various ships, the fighters, the raiders, and so forth. So a lot of great comments there, folks, and I appreciate them. And please keep them coming, and we'll keep shouting them out on the episode.
Yeah, and I think, for example, I don't know if either one of you watched Station 11.
I'm reading the book right now. Was that the one with the when they were like in a research lab in the Arctic or something, and they're working with a virus?
No, this is
okay. This is a different one.
And maybe I called it the wrong thing. Yeah, Station 11. This may be my choice on when we do something. It is set after a health pandemic. Oddly weird.
Yeah, that's the book I'm reading. So I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Yeah, and they end up this traveling Shakespeare company.
Yeah, that's the book I'm reading.
Okay, well,
Emily St. John Mandel.
Yeah, so I watched the series, and it's a short series, only like 6-8 episodes. And like after 3 or 4 episodes, I was like, why am I watching this? I don't understand anything. I hate this on Twitter. And a couple people said, stick with it. And I went, okay. And then I ended up going, oh my goodness, I love this. And so it's one of those where, like, I never felt that Moon Knight paid off anything. It just, to me, it didn't work. I just got more questions and more confusion, and I just ended up not enjoying the story. So I think it's a fine line between when you're telling an overall arc and trying to give you enough information so you don't get frustrated, right? Like Lost fought that battle sometimes where they were like, how do we do this? So I think I see both sides.
It's interesting that you mentioned that about Station 11, because I am reading the book and I'm maybe almost halfway through it, and I'm going, because they're jumping back between pre and post pandemic, and I'm going like, where's the story going? Like, I don't really understand where it is, but everybody praises the book, so I'm going, okay, I'm going to stick it out because the writing is good. So it's not that, it's just I'm having trouble understanding where is this story going. So because the two timelines don't seem connected, very slightly connected through a comic book. Interesting.
Exactly.
So that's about it. And I'm going, okay, well, like, what's this all about? But so I guess we're going through the same thing with Babylon 5. But the good thing is, at least we don't have to wait 5 years to watch this all. Even though we're doing it at a slower pace, probably than people would like. But we won't have these big gaps between seasons. So that's the good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you. This was, as always, a great discussion with Karen, aka Susan, and
podcast
Lou.
mom.
Yes, the podcast mom. So if someone wants to reach you, how can they, Karen?
I'm at Oliveria on Twitter, and there's a link in my bio to my blog, which I will be busy updating this week.
Oh, good.
With
all
what?
Right. Yes.
Well, my links and stuff are all out of date.
Oh, okay.
So
you've grown.
Yes. And Lou?
You can find me on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, on Twitter at Lou W. Sitzma, SYTSMA, or the Stephen King Podcast. And that's about it.
Fair. Well, you can find me as standing in line to buy Springsteen tickets. I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. You can find me there. And this month, August, when we put this out, is John Hyatt month at Set Lusting Bruce. John Hyatt is a musician from Indiana that I am a big fan of, and I'm doing a series of episodes where other John Hyatt fans join me and we talk about the guy's albums and music. So should be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. Next week, we will be talking Grail, which in a very timely fashion, David Warner is one of the stars who just recently passed. Yeah, great character actor, someone who had significant roles in a lot of great science fiction.
Yep.
So I'm sure we will talking more about him. So that is the episode we will be discussing next week.
It's like he waited for the 40th anniversary of Tron to pass away. It just passed the same week. So.
Oh, very nice. I did not realize that. All right. So take care, everyone. Be safe. Talk to your doctor. Determine what's right for you, but go get vaccinated, go get boosted, and let's be kind to each other because that's how we're going to get through this. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See.